So now that we have our view in the scene, I'm going to navigate to the resources folder and go ahead and just drag in our 2D camera. This is just pre-configured with some setup just to save time. I'm going to delete my main camera. I'm going to go ahead and drag in the blue background. And let's click on our 2D camera and set our Z to -10. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring in some of our other resources just to start making our scene actually have something inside of it. So I'm going to grab the little Flappy Bird, or the Angry Bird, if you will. And I'm going to drag in the ground prefab. Let's go ahead and slice up our pipes. So I'm just going to go to the inspector here and set it to multiple on the sprite mode. Go to the sprite editor. And it looks like it's already got everything sliced. Apply. Now we've got two pipes here. So to create this pipe, I'm going to actually create a empty game object. Drag both pipes in. Let's rename this to pipe. And let's drag that down to our resources folder. And I'm going to adjust these pipes just a little bit here. I'm going to set one of the pipes, move it up, and let's do 6, or let's do 5.5. And then on the other one, do -5.5. And then on both of them, make sure the x-axis is 0. Set its negative axis to -5. So for now, I'm just going to just disable this pipe view. We'll come back to that later. So now we want to actually build out the states of this game view. So let's click on our game view, go to Initialize View Model. It starts with a default state of menu. So when switching to these other states, we want to react to them and do things differently. So to make this easy, I'm going to click on that game view, go to Create Empty Child. I'm going to have a menu display. Create another empty child. Call this Game Over Display. Add one more. Call this HUD Display. Make sure it's underneath the game view. So what we want to do is hide and show these in the appropriate states when these state values change, or when the state property changes. So to do this, we want to add a state binding to our Angry Flappers game view. So I'm just going to click on the plus next to bindings. I'm going to click on state changed. Close that, save and compile. So now, if I right click, go to open, and open my view code file, you'll see I've now got this method here, state changed. I'm just going to delete this comment because we don't need it. So now when the state changes, we need a reference to our HUD display, Game Over display, and menu display. So I'm just going to add these directly in the view. Let's call it menu display. Game Over display. And I spelled that wrong. And we need a public transform HUD display. And I can't type. Alright, so now when the state changes, we're going to set these up and hide and show them as necessary. So I like to do this just by doing menu display, game object, set active, value is equal to Angry Flappers game state menu. So if it's not menu, it'll hide it. Then let's do the same thing with game over display. And let's do the same thing with our HUD display. And we want this only to show when the state is equal to playing. And actually, we're going to show our menu as well when it's in the game over state. So we'll add a or game over. Alright, that looks good. So save that. So now we need something that will actually set our state to the playing state, so we can actually see these change. I'm going to right click on the element and go to Open Angry Flappers Game Controller. And what we need to do here is actually create our play command that we defined in our game element. So that's what our controller's for, just to implement the commands that are defined on a element. So let's override the play command. And all this is going to do is access the Angry Flappers game property. And this property is generated for you by the uFrame designer because it's a single instance element. Since it's a single instance element, there's only ever going to be one. So this controller will always work with the same instance. That's why it creates a property for you. So let's go ahead and set the state to playing. And we can go ahead and set the score is equal to 0. Alright, so now that's done. Let's hit save, wait for it to compile. Now we don't have anything to actually call this play command just yet, but uFrame gives you tools to make stuff like this easier to test when you're just getting things going. So let's click on our view here, hit the play button, and we forgot to do one thing. We need to wire up our menu display, game over display, and HUD display. Let's run that again. So now you can see the bindings have already taken into effect. The menu display is open, all the others are not. This is because currently it's in the menu state. If I hit play, you'll see that it jumps to the HUD display, so it's currently in the playing state. I can even play with these just by setting it. This is a new feature in 1.4 that allows you to actually set the viewModel instance at the runtime, and the bindings will be invoked accordingly.